Hey, what's cracking, guys? What's going on YouTube? You've tuned into another exciting episode of Side Hustle Tuesdays. Today is episode 101 of our Side Hustling series. In this series, we look at successful stories from entrepreneurs and side hustlers who started a business outside of their 9-to-5 job, typically with little risk and little money. Now, oftentimes when people are looking for a product or a niche to sell, or just some direction in regards to what to sell online, they look to something that they know. Now, this is also advice I typically give people. If you're part of a hobby, a community, or some type of niche, you likely already know something about the community, their values, their needs, and maybe you even have some connections which could help you in launching or promoting a business. That's how I got started with my most successful business to date, and most of my successes have come within areas that I had some expertise or at least some familiarity. Well, this is incredibly helpful in launching a new business. It's not the only way. And that was the case with Jayla Smith Hughes. She knew nothing about her product or industry when she got started. Today's Side Hustle Tuesday story is about a woman who, after traveling through Europe, was inspired to put together three interests of hers: travel, sustainability, and blankets into a new business. Now, I like a lot of the aspects of this story. For one, part of her reason for starting this hustle was extra income, but even more importantly was job security, which is something I think each one of us can use. Beyond that, as you'll hear from her story, she hit roadblocks along the way. I know some people private label products, just slapping their brand upon an already existing and available product. Others dropship junk from AliExpress, and it's understandable. Creating a new product is difficult, finding suppliers is difficult, and communicating an idea for something that doesn't currently exist is difficult, and today's side hustler ran into all those challenges. What I really liked was, instead of giving up and slapping her logo on a print-on-demand tee or becoming another seller of AliExpress Tibetan prayer bracelets, she stuck with it, she got creative, and she eventually found a supplier that got her product made. Today's side hustler again is Jayla Smith Hughes. She's from the Pacific Northwest. Jayla currently works in digital strategy and social media marketing and strategy. And prior to launching this business, she knew next to nothing about manufacturing products or blankets or textiles. A few things she was interested and passionate about, however, were design, travel, sustainability, and of course blankets. After returning from a trip to Europe, Jayla was inspired to get started. She was inspired by her travels, by design and sustainability, and of course blankets. She loved a comfortable blanket, and this is where Seek and Swoon was born. Jayla sells heirloom quality knit blankets which were inspired by her travels, and for the sustainability part, which were made from recycled yarn. Jayla had always wanted to launch a product-based business, and her background in digital marketing and social media strategy would be helpful to have, but she really knew nothing about launching a product-based business or e-commerce. A big part of what inspired her was worrying one day her job or skill sets could be made irrelevant, and she wanted to find something else to fall back on or something else to bring in another revenue stream. And you could say this was her security blanket. Pardon the bad pun. Now, Jayla again knew nothing about starting a blanket company. She just knew a certain style she liked, and she wanted them to be cozy. She began by creating a list of about 100 knitting mills in the US she found off Google. She contacted them one by one by either phone or email, and one of her requirements was a knitting mill that could do smaller quantities. She began looking at her competitors' websites and sending photos to the knitting mills, showing them what she wanted and what she liked. As she went through this process, she began learning more about design and the manufacturing process, which in turn allowed her to be much more specific about what she wanted. She realized the style of blanket she wanted would need to be created by something called a flat knitting machine. So she redirected her product search to companies who had these types of machines. Most of the outreach, she either heard nothing back from them, or would hear that the knitting mill either didn't make the blankets in her style, or they did, but they couldn't make them to the size she required. I want to interrupt this story briefly to talk about this. Something I've personally felt and run into, and I imagine a lot of you guys have as well, is you have an idea and you wanted to get started right away. It would be great to sit down and in an hour or even an afternoon find exactly what you're looking for or the perfect manufacturer. The reality, though, is that in order to get the product you want and launch a successful business, this is likely going to be a slow process of spending weeks contacting manufacturers, waiting weeks for samples, only to find out you don't like the samples, and wind up back at square one and $50 to $100 more broke. It's important to realize that this is part of the process, and while it's frustrating and time-consuming and you just want to get going, it is normal. Eventually, Jayla found 3 mills that met her need. She ordered samples, however, unfortunately, none of them were what she was looking for. She felt defeated and gave up. She actually shelved this product for about 6 months. One day, however, she decided, I'm going to give it another go. This time around, she decided to contact companies who made the machines she wanted her items made on and worked backwards getting factory recommendations from the people who actually made the machines. One day she wound up on the phone with a guy who used to manage a knitting mill, and he directed her to a factory who looked like they might be able to do just what she needed. She wound up ordering a sample, and it wound up being perfect. She had finally found her manufacturer. Startup costs for Seek and Swoon were not cheap. They wound up being about $10K. That was used for inventory, packaging, shipping, and building a website. The site is currently averaging about $1,500 a month in profit. Jada knows it could be doing more, and she does want to grow it, but at this point she's just happy the business she's launched is profitable, and that can be tough to do with a product-based business. She gets the most satisfaction about hearing from satisfied customers who tell her they love the blanket, or whomever they gifted the blanket to loves it. She loves hearing about husbands and wives or boyfriends and girlfriends who fight over the blanket on the couch watching movies. In the future, Jayla hopes the business will allow her to travel more, or potentially maybe even live abroad, and I think that's a common draw of entrepreneurship for a lot of people looking to get into entrepreneurship, and that's being a location independent or having more freedom over their lifestyle, as well as where and how they live. I think Jayla's done a great job on our website, from the look and feel of the images and the vibe. One particular thing I liked about her site is her About Us page. Outside of the homepage or landing page, I feel this is one of the more important pages of a website, is getting your story out there and telling people why they should care about your business. And I was going to read a little bit of it, but just take a look at her About Us page. I'll link to it in the description box below. I think oftentimes with products, people don't need products like they maybe need a service. Somebody needs their lawn mowed. They don't necessarily need a throw blanket. But oftentimes creating a successful product or business is about making people form a connection or an identity with the message behind the brand. How many people who wear Nikes don't even play basketball? How many people who wear Vans don't even skate? How many people who wear Hurleys don't even surf? And how many people who wear North Face don't actually adventure or do things outdoors? You get the point. People either admire a movement or a value, or they want to connect to it themselves, even if they don't actually participate in it. And I think Jayla's done a great job of that, with having people form a connection to her product, her brand, and what it's all about. Now, normally I like to wrap up these episodes with some type of message or takeaway from them, and I think the story itself has got a lot of these already. I suppose one message I might leave you with is creating a real business isn't going to be something you can set up in 2 hours or on a Sunday afternoon like an AliExpress dropshipping store. Starting a real business is going to require some money and a lot more thought. I'd encourage a lot of people, rather than starting a half-assed business, to have some patience and actually take the time to earn the money needed, or to build what's needed to actually launch something that can scale and that will actually stand the test of time. Anyhow, guys, hope you enjoyed episode 101 of Side Hustle Tuesdays and our Side Hustling series. I hope you learned something. I hope you were inspired. And until next week, this is Rules for Rebels and Side Hustle Tuesdays, signing out.